I gave my friend a haircut and now everything feels different. Recently, my friend lost a family member he was very close to, and it hit him hard. He didn't get the chance to travel for the funeral, so I invited him to spend the weekend with me. We live a few hours apart, but he agreed, bought tickets, and came over. I hosted him at my place, and we had a blast. It was a lovely weekend. On his first night here, we started talking about haircuts. I mentioned that I've been cutting my own hair for years, and he asked if I could give him a trim to save some money. I agreed, even though I only do simple cuts. The next morning, I sat him down in my bathroom, wrapped a towel around his neck, and realized I would have to touch him for this. We're not very touchy people, and I don't think we had even hugged before. As I worked on his hair, I kept apologizing for touching him, and he reassured me that I was being gentle. I had a playlist running in the background, which helped ease the tension. I noticed his hair was soft and smelled nice. When I looked in the mirror, I saw him with his eyes closed, breathing deeply, as if he was enjoying the moment. He seemed completely relaxed, while I focused on getting the cut just right. When I finished, he wanted to toss his shirt in the washer to avoid getting hair on his other clothes. As he took off his shirt and handed it to me, I noticed my own shirt was covered in tiny hairs, so I took it off too. I went to start the washer, and when I checked on him in the shower, it felt completely normal. We were both in just shorts and a bra, and there was no awkwardness at all. The haircut turned out great. He loved it, and proudly told our friends I was the one who did it. I could see him checking his reflection, looking satisfied and happier than I'd seen him in a long time. He mentioned he didn't remember the last time he felt so at peace, which meant a lot given everything he was going through. Throughout the weekend, I noticed we began to touch each other casually. He held my hand while I navigated stairs in high heels, and I instinctively grabbed his arm when I heard shocking news. He even placed his hand on my back as we got onto the subway. I adjusted his shirt collar when it was crooked, and he hugged me goodbye for several seconds. For us, these gestures felt significant. While all of this was nice, I couldn't understand how giving him a haircut shifted our relationship from being distant to feeling so close. It's not an inherently intimate activity. Professional hairdressers do it all the time without this kind of connection. I'm not complaining. I'm glad we're closer, but it's puzzling how quickly things changed. I don't think our friendship is the same anymore. But it doesn't feel romantic either. We didn't kiss or anything like that, and I believe we both didn't want to. Now I'm left confused, struggling to identify my feelings and understand how a simple haircut led to such a drastic change in our relationship. Thank you for letting me share. College teacher gave surprise extra work last minute, but I helped to thwart her. Let me take you back to my college days. I initially went to school overseas, but after falling seriously ill, I had to return to the mainland US. It took years for me to recover enough to enroll in a local college, and my younger brother decided to join me. I had tested out of most classes, but the college didn't give credit for everything I had already completed. I was just one class away from my degree when I got sick, and unfortunately, that class wasn't offered at the new college. One of the classes they made me take was advanced keyboarding, taught by a disorganized instructor who didn't even have the right qualifications. She never really taught us anything. Instead, she assigned work and paid a student to grade it. Her emails were riddled with errors, and the online classes we were supposed to have turned into in-person sessions because she couldn't figure out the technology. In addition to the graded assignments, she assigned some non-graded practice work, where we had to type what we read, word for word. I completed all my practice work quickly, but she still required attendance for tests and other tasks. My brother, however, found the practice work pointless and typed random phrases instead, thinking the teacher would never check. As the semester was nearing its end, she suddenly decided to review the practice work and was furious. She sent out a poorly written email berating us for being unprofessional, claiming that we had typed offensive things and gibberish. She announced that the practice work would now be graded, and we had just 2 days to print it out or face failing the class. I was already frustrated because I had done all my work and didn't want to deal with the hassle of printing it on such short notice. I had to drive over bumpy roads to get to campus, and now I was being punished for others' actions. It took hours to print everything, as I had to wait for other students' print jobs and for paper refills that the instructor had to manage. I expressed my irritation to her, explaining that I felt like I was being treated like a child. Many students were panicking, feeling overwhelmed with the unexpected workload, and my brother was equally frustrated. He believed it was unfair for her to spring this on us at the last minute. That's when I decided to take matters into my own hands. I noticed that there was no security on the school's system. Anyone could access and edit another student's assignments. While the teacher was out of the room, I showed my brother how to access my folder and his own. I stepped out for a quick bite, and while I was gone, he copied the text from my completed practice assignments into his folder. To be even more mischievous, he checked the folders of other students who hadn't completed their work and pasted my assignments into theirs. The next day in class, I overheard the teacher having a meltdown. She was baffled as to how all these students who hadn't done the work suddenly had everything printed. She was furious, unable to comprehend how it happened. It was clear she wasn't going to read through the work. She just wanted to see that it was done. While I knew it wasn't the most ethical thing to do, I felt justified. After all, her last-minute grading of non-graded work wasn't fair either. In the end, everyone had their assignments printed, and she wasted a ton of resources trying to figure it all out. Had to comply before my boss would see that an idea was so stupid it would prevent customers even entering the store. From 1997 to 2004, I managed a chain of record stores. I was known for my hard work, diligence, and the pride I took in my job. My branch ran smoothly, so I was often sent to struggling locations to help them improve. The company even adopted some of my administrative ideas, because I found the existing processes inefficient. My opinions were respected until October 2001. I received a delivery of 20 folding tables, described as trestle tables. I was puzzled, but the memo instructed me to set them up on the shop floor and cover them with cheap, red plastic. I couldn't understand why we needed this. Our store had beautiful shelving, and the space was already cramped. Customers often complained about navigating the aisles, and adding these tables would only make things worse. I called my regional manager, Greg, to express my concerns. He thought it was a brilliant idea that would attract customers. I pointed out that we didn't have enough space for even one table, let alone 20. Despite my best efforts to explain, he insisted I comply and said he'd be there in the morning to check. Determined to show him the absurdity of the situation, I stayed late to set up the tables. It took over 2 hours, and I ended up with cuts and bruises. My once beautiful shop floor was now a chaotic sea of red plastic. I made sure there was a small path to the exit, crawling under the tables to lock up. The next morning, Greg arrived early and stared in disbelief at the scene before him. "What have you done?" he asked. I replied, "Exactly what you asked for." I slid up the shutter and crawled back across the floor to disarm the alarm. I shouted to him, "This is what I have to do just to get in. How do you expect customers to shop here?" His eyes widened as he realized the problem. I added, "Actually, this is only 18 of the 20 tables. We could stack the other 2 on top if you want." I had already decided to resign, so I felt free to be a bit cheeky. Greg shook his head in frustration. "Let's just clear this mess up." We both started folding the tables, but the plastic made it difficult. It took us at least 40 minutes to get everything back upstairs, causing the store to open late and annoy customers. Greg spent the next hour on the phone with head office, explaining how ridiculous the idea was and urging them to rethink it. In the end, I had to comply before they could see the absurdity of their plan.
Being a jerk? Here, have a sticker. This story takes me back to my days working in a warehouse, where I generally got along with everyone, but then there was Mr. Jerk. He didn't like me, and I didn't take it personally. I just tried to ignore him, and we kept our distance. Mr. Jerk had been there for over 20 years, and had a knack for charming upper management. No matter how many people he annoyed, he seemed untouchable. He always managed to get vacation time during blackout dates, proving he was quite the accomplished squeaky wheel. He was also very opinionated about certain groups of people, and let's just say his views were far from acceptable. On top of that, he was a huge germaphobe. He didn't have an assigned machine, but the one he claimed as his own was treated like a sacred space. He'd spend half an hour cleaning it at the start of every shift and would make it as inconvenient as possible for others to use. One day, I came home and vented to my girlfriend about something irritating he said. She suggested I take some of the bizarre stickers she had bought for her classroom and stick them on his machine. That idea sparked something in me. I thought, why not? I started putting a weird sticker in the same spot on his machine every day before he arrived. 2 months passed, and it became a routine. I'd place a sticker, he'd take it off, and life went on. It was just a little chuckle for me. Then one day, I overheard him angrily discussing the stickers with my work husband. I couldn't help but laugh when I found out he was furious about them. Eventually, I admitted it was me, and we both burst into laughter. Our supervisor joined in, saying as long as Mr. Jerk didn't complain, there was nothing to worry about. After that, it became a team effort to keep the sticker prank going. 4 months went by, and I caught him angrily ripping off yet another sticker. I approached him, pretending to be clueless. "That's a super weird sticker you got there." He exploded. "Every single shift, man. The stickers just don't stop." I barely held it together. Then he showed me a cardboard mural he had created, displaying every single sticker I had put on his machine. I realized I had been psychologically torturing him, and I started to feel a bit guilty. But then he crossed a line. He made derogatory comments about a trans man on the night shift, claiming he was obsessed with him. That really upset me. I had planned to stop the stickers, but now I was determined to keep going. I made sure to put stickers on his machine when our trans coworker wasn't around, driving him even further into madness. 6 months passed, and the stickers only got weirder. I even included messages like, "I just want to hug you," and "You're such a beautiful flower." Eventually, I decided it was time to confess. When I revealed that it was mostly me and my work husband behind the stickers, the look of betrayal and relief on his face was priceless. Who knew harmless stickers could drive a jerk like that crazy? He promised to get back at me, but it's been years since then. And yes, I have a picture of his sticker mural.
I'm leaving my husband in 3 months. He has no idea or doesn't seem to care. My husband and I have been together for 15 years, which is half our lives. We've lived together for 8 of those years, and we've always had our share of arguments about household responsibilities. For the past 7 years, he hasn't held a real job, meaning he's home all day. Despite my countless conversations, pleas, and even threats, he still hasn't taken the initiative to help around the house unless I specifically ask him to. He claims he can't tell if something is messy or just a little dirty. He says I'm obsessed with cleaning and that my expectations are unreasonable. He insists he tries to keep things in order, but he can't promise anything. We have 4 pets, and we wash the bathroom once a week. I don't think anyone is obsessed with cleaning. I just want the house to look decent when I come home after a long day at work. I'm exhausted when I get home. He picks me up from work because he needs the car for errands with his family. He's very hands-on with them, but with me, I have to ask for help, and he often complains. Lately, I've been feeling overwhelmed by the mess, and my mental health is suffering. We argued about it again today on the way home. He mocked my frustration, which made me furious. I've been working hard to manage my emotions, and I hate reacting that way. When I got home, I slammed doors and kicked things. He told me it wasn't right for him to express himself that way, but it also wasn't right for me to scream. I didn't want to say anything else because I was so angry, so I just agreed and he left me alone. Last year, we fought about this at least 5 times. I've communicated my needs clearly, but he acts like he doesn't care. I realize that he doesn't care about any aspect of our relationship. We only moved in together because I proposed it, saved the money, and organized everything. He just brought his things and settled in. He prefers to stay inside playing games and wants everything to be peaceful. I made a list of the things that make me happy and the things that frustrate me. The list grew long and messy. I hadn't realized how unhappy I was until now. I've discussed my feelings with him before, but he hasn't bothered to work on anything because it's not a problem for him. He makes no effort in our relationship. It feels like I'm the only one invested. He's barely present. He's nice to me, patient, and he does the laundry and cares for the pets. He's a good man, but he doesn't care about our relationship at all. He never complains about me, but that's not because I'm perfect. It's because he simply doesn't care. He'd rather avoid conflict than put in any effort. Well, I'm done. I'm getting my life in order, and I'm leaving in 3 months. He won't hear another complaint from me. I'm done with that. I'll wait these 3 months and observe. If it looks like he's just living his dream, I'm out. His dream never included me, and I'm tired of wasting my life. And the best part? He has no clue. He thinks we'll just talk things out and then argue again later, or maybe he won't even care at all. AITA for telling my neighbor to go through insurance? Let me take you back to a chilly day when my car slipped on black ice and I accidentally hit my neighbor's mailbox. I felt terrible about it and immediately gave her my insurance information. She mentioned that my insurance wanted her to pay up front, which she couldn't afford. I offered to buy a new mailbox and have my handyman install it, but it would have to wait until after the new year. The mailbox wouldn't arrive until December 29th, and my handyman had family plans. On December 29th, she called, but I couldn't answer because my daughter was sick. I texted my handyman to arrange a day for installation, and he reached out to her, letting her know he'd be back on January 2nd. Then, on December 31st, I received a sarcastic text from her, implying I didn't care. I explained my daughter had been in the hospital, which is why I hadn't returned her call. She responded, saying I should have called her back and that I should be ashamed of myself. I had already apologized multiple times, but her name-calling crossed a line for me. I told her to go through my insurance if she felt I wasn't handling it quickly enough. She shot back with a message calling me disrespectful and pathetic. That was the final straw for me. I told her, I'm returning the mailbox. Go through insurance, you have the info. Her mailbox was still usable, just cracked, and she had chosen it, knowing it wouldn't arrive until December 29th. I even sent my handyman to fix her leaky sink as a gesture of goodwill and dropped off treats to apologize. I had answered all her calls except for the one on December 29th, where I used my phone's feature to text her that my daughter was sick and that my handyman would reach out. She texted back, saying I should have called personally and that I should be ashamed. I explained that I thought everything was resolved since my handyman had scheduled a visit, but she continued to call me pathetic and sinful. I finally told her to go through insurance. As a side note, I'm a woman with no tools, and I hire a handyman because it's more cost-effective for me. I found out later that she had already made a claim with my insurance weeks ago and was asking for receipts, even though I was paying my handyman directly. In the end, I had a claim open for damage to my car, so this wouldn't cost me extra. I even had accident forgiveness. Now I guess I have one less neighbor to wave to. I found my brother-in-law's Reddit account and am genuinely terrified for my family. Let me start by saying that I won't be sharing his username. I know some might think this story is made up, but his account contains a lot of private information about my family, including sensitive details that could be harmful. He doesn't know I've discovered this account, and I don't want anyone reaching out to him. I'm 21, and my sister Jane, who is 28, has been with John, who's 27, for 2 years. I stumbled upon his account while Googling his name, as he's a journalist. When I clicked on it, I found numerous posts where he was ranting about Jane's family, especially about me. At first, I thought I had just come across a disturbed individual, but as I read on, I realized he mentioned enough personal details that it was undeniably him. Both Jane and I have unique names, and our last name isn't common either. Most of his posts were complaints about Jane, me, or our mother. The most alarming post was about me. I've had a difficult past with men, largely due to trauma, and I'm in therapy to work through it. This seems to infuriate John. In one post, he detailed a plan to offer me a ride home during my next visit, but instead, he intended to take a scenic route through the countryside. He claimed he wanted to make me afraid enough to change my perspective about men, believing that since he wouldn't hurt me, it would somehow convince me that not all men are bad. The post was lengthy and filled with disturbing thoughts. He complained about how I flinch around him and insisted he could fix me, better than my therapist. Reading it left me in tears. One comment suggested he seek help, but his response was that I was the one who needed it. His comment history was equally concerning, filled with strange ideas about relationships and women's roles in society. I've never been close to John, but now I feel uneasy. I don't know how to approach my sister about this. I have screenshots and links, but I'm unsure how to present it all. I'm also struggling with anxiety. I feel a constant tension in my chest, teetering on the edge of a panic attack. I shared my findings with my mom and uncle, providing them with all the screenshots and details. My sister is currently away for work, so we're waiting for her to return in a couple of days. His account is still active, and we're trying to figure out the best way to tell her. Thank you for listening. They lie to you. As someone working as an IT technician in the educational sector, I see a lot of things. But today was a new experience. Anyone in education knows that exams can be incredibly stressful. With the increasing reliance on technology to support students who struggle academically, tech plays a bigger role in exam provision. The stress only intensifies when you find out you've been misled, and that's where our story begins. It was resit season. Students who didn't perform well 6 months ago were getting a second chance. This meant that those with access needs, like using a word processor or a text-to-speech reader, required special provisions. Typically, they would sit in a computer room with an invigilator and well-tested workstations. But not today. Today, we had a request for a student to be in their own room, which meant we needed to provide a laptop. This was straightforward, since the same software was loaded on all laptops, allowing exams to be conducted almost anywhere. As long as the file could be saved to our network shares, we were good to go. However, with exam accounts, there are strict restrictions. No internet access, no access to certain programs, and limited user areas help prevent cheating. When it came time to print the exams, the usual process involved printing to the local room's printer. Each computer room has its own loader printer, but with laptops, the process is different. We typically access the exam account's user area on the server to print from there. Except today, the file wasn't there. We checked the laptop, and it showed the file saved to the user area. But when we looked on the server, nothing appeared. The laptop was connected to the network, and everything seemed fine, but the file just wouldn't save. I tried saving it locally on the laptop, but no luck. The accounts were locked down tightly. I checked the share permissions, and they looked fine. Similar accounts had worked correctly just hours before. Then I remembered my own office laptop was the one we were using, since the request for the exam laptop had come in late. This meant it had printers mapped that wouldn't normally be there, including a photo printer in the art office. I rushed to the art office, and thankfully, it printed, though on cardstock. At least we had something. Next, I needed to find the digital copy. I switched users to log in with an admin account, hoping to find the file in the expected location. But to my dismay, it wasn't there. Whatever Explorer had claimed was saved turned out to be misleading. A search of the C drive yielded nothing. I switched back to the exam account, and the files were still showing as saved from the laptop's perspective. The network share, however, remained empty. I wondered if it was a network issue, but everything appeared connected. Still, I decided to plug in the network cable just in case. I saved the file again, and this time, it appeared on the network share. It wasn't a permissions issue. It was a network glitch. Explorer had misled me. The file was printed, handed to the exam officer, and I was left with the realization that computers don't need artificial intelligence to deceive you.
You won't let me leave when I'm obviously sick? Let's see what your boss has to say. You all seem to enjoy my last post about my old boss, Jack, so I wanted to share another story that recently came to mind when my allergies flared up. Just to recap, Jack was brought in to fix the restaurant and loved exercising his power as the general manager, often avoiding actual work. At the time of this story, I was 17, working at the restaurant after school to save for college. I suffered from terrible seasonal allergies, So much so that I had 3 bottles of strong antihistamines stashed around me. However, on this particular day, I hadn't taken anything because my allergies weren't usually bad enough to warrant it. That morning, I was working the drive-thru right next to a Palo Verde tree. If you've experienced one of those trees in the fall, you know how bad the pollen can get. After about an hour, my nose was running uncontrollably. I knew I needed to do something, so I approached Jack to find a solution. I asked if I could move to another station to escape the pollen. No, he said, we've got a full staff today, and I'm not willing to move you around. I then asked if I could leave briefly to grab some over-the-counter antihistamines. He shot that down too, claiming it was company policy not to let employees leave during their shift. I was baffled. I was clearly struggling, yet he insisted I stay and serve customers while I dripped snot all over the counter. Realizing he wouldn't budge, I decided to comply with his demands in my own way. I was friendly with the franchise owner, Sam, who often stopped by during my shift. I knew he'd be there soon, and I hoped he would see how poorly Jack was handling the situation. I grabbed a box of tissues from the staff bathroom and settled in, making my way through that box and then some before Sam finally arrived. My throat was sore, and I could only imagine how I looked to the customers. When Sam approached, he immediately noticed my condition. "OP, are you feeling okay? You don't look well," he said. I replied, "I'm hanging in there. My allergies are acting up." Sam frowned and asked why I hadn't moved or taken something for it. I explained that Jack had refused both options and insisted I tough it out. Sam's expression shifted to one of determination. "Come with me," he said, leading me to the back office where Jack was. Jack frowned when he saw me. "OP, what are you doing back here? You need to stay at your station," he admonished. Before I could respond, Sam interjected. "I had someone cover him. Why did you keep him on the drive-thru when the tree was making his allergies act up?" Jack tried to defend himself, but Sam cut him off. "We're not even that busy. You could have easily moved OP or sent him home." Jack continued to justify his decision, claiming he asked the other employees, but Sam turned to me and said, "I'm sending you home. You're in no state to finish your shift." I thanked him and left, but Sam closed the office door, so I missed the conversation that followed. I clocked out and rushed to the corner store to grab some medicine to stop the runny nose. Unfortunately, I later developed a lingering cough, which led me to urgent care. I found out that all that mucus had ended up in my lungs, and I had pneumonia. After a doctor-prescribed day of rest, some steroids, and a week of medication, I finally recovered. To this day, I always carry antihistamines with me to prevent that from happening again. As for Jack, nothing seemed to happen to him, but that incident did get mentioned in the next staff meeting. Sam reminded everyone that employees shouldn't come to work sick and should be sent home if they develop symptoms. Sadly, I quickly found a new job where I was much happier. Jack is still there, but I've heard he's planning to quit soon to move abroad with his girlfriend. My heart goes out to her. I'll try to remember more stories about Jack. There are plenty more, but it's been a while, so some details might be a bit foggy.